premium hatchbacks offer up luxury car refinement in a small car package. That's something plenty of Australians are after, and many have been tempted into a Mercedes A-Class, BMW 1 Series or Audi A3. But is Volvo's offering good enough to beat the very successful Germans?
I'm Tom Baker, this is Chasing Cars, and here I've got the Volvo V40 T5 R-Design, which is the performance model of the range, about on par with a Golf GTI in terms of pace. The T5 sits atop a range of petrol and diesel models, but all V40s benefit from this clean Scandinavian design that really sets the Volvo apart across the class of premium hatches. But at between $40,000 and $60,000, the Volvo isn't necessarily a bargain. So is it good enough to compete with the likes of the Audi, and impressive enough to make you spend quite a lot more over the equivalent Volkswagen Golf? If you're a regular at chasingcars.com.au, you'll know that we really like Volvo's cabins because they're high quality and very comfortable, and none of that is lost in the smaller and marginally cheaper V40. The leather seats in luxury and R-Design models are incredibly supple and supportive over short or long distances. The steering wheel, gear stick, dash top and other surfaces you interact with here in the cabin all feel lovely to the touch. The floating centre stack still looks really cool, although the buttons to control the sat-nav are becoming a bit cumbersome in comparison to the rotary dials that you see on all of the German offerings in this class. But the sound system is still incredibly crisp, and it's not an option, it's completely standard. What is an option is the glass roof in this V40. It's quite a pricey option at nearly $3,000, and it does fill the cabin with light, but we'd prefer it if it was able to be opened. If you're after something with heaps of room and practicality in the second row, you'll go for something a bit larger like Volvo's V60 station wagon. At the end of the day, the V40 is a compact car, and that shows here in the back. Although it's 6'0", I do have enough knee room, but my headroom is pretty severely restricted, partially because of this large glass roof, although the V40 that we drove without one was also pretty tight in the back for taller teenagers. But families with smaller kids or those that don't often have people in the back seat will be just fine. Fitting 3 across though, well, that's pretty difficult, although the 2 outboard seats are shaped similarly to the ones in front, so it's almost as comfortable back here. Practicality isn't really the V40's strongest suit when it comes to the boot, which at 335 litres is a good 10% down on the equivalent Volkswagen Golf. However, in a recent update to the V40, Volvo has at least added proper folding seats, which now creates a completely flat floor, which does expand the back compartment of the V40 if you're interested in shopping for some other Swedish goods once you've got this car. No matter which engine you choose, all Volvo V40s are fun to drive and they've all got a lot of character. The one thing that they all share is a stiff button-down chassis that makes for great cornering ability. This T5 model is the fastest of the lot, and R-Design models across the range are a little bit sharper than their luxury or kinetic counterparts. Choosing a motor means selecting between 2 petrols and 2 diesels, and essentially there's a high output and a low output choice among those 2 fuel types. Skip over the tiny but frugal D2 diesel and head straight for the fun and frugal D4 diesel if you want the best all-rounder. But if you simply want the fastest Volvo V40, this T5 with 180 kilowatts of power and 350 newton meters of torque isn't a bad proposition. In fact, you'll beat a Golf GTI at the traffic lights. The dual tailpipes do look a bit more menacing than they sound, with the T5 a little bit muted in the cabin. It's recently become a 4-cylinder, replacing the characterful old 5-cylinder, which was a lot more raughty. However, the new model is much more frugal, giving you 6s and 7s in terms of fuel economy when you're cruising on the highway, and about 10 around town, which isn't too bad when you're putting out this much power. Aside from the sound, the T5 does have most of the characteristics of a good hot hatch. There's excellent in-gear acceleration aided by the 8-speed automatic, there's good tractability, and there's also minimal understeer despite the front-wheel drive architecture and a lack of an all-wheel drive option. Where the V40 becomes more cumbersome is around town, and that's because it's got a fairly ludicrous turning circle and difficult backwards visibility thanks to narrow windows. The V40 does keep you safe while you're pushing its limits though, thanks to a generous 8 airbags and Volvo's city safety autonomous emergency braking system thrown in as standard. However, in a surprise for Volvo, more advanced safety technologies like blind spot assist or active cruise control are only available as part of an expensive $6,000 option pack. Cap price servicing isn't offered on the V40, which can make maintenance costs a bit hard to predict, but there haven't been any major reliability issues with this generation of the car.
So what we've got is a very nice little Volvo. The V40 is comfortable, refined, frugal, and if you go for the T5, surprisingly rapid. The only awkward thing is the price. It's not worth this much over a Golf. But if prices were cut 5,000 or 6,000 across the board, well, then we'd have a very attractive proposition on our hands.